Hi, I'm Bruno Aziza, and I'm sitting here with Patrick Houston, who's the CEO of Extended Results. Thanks for being here, Patrick.
Thanks for having me.
So we were talking earlier with Diego, who's built a great set of analytics. In fact, we're sharing those analytics with people here on the internet so they can build their own analytics, because after all, the data is useful, but the analytics that people can come up with are interesting. Right. Some of the data that Diego's using comes from your work. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, you bet. So we're starting to do a lot of social media analytics for companies. So we ended up building a tool that allowed us to harvest that internet conversation going on, right? The Twitter, the Facebook, the YouTube, the blogs that you want to track. We capture that conversation based on keywords, if you will, and we store that in our databases local or really at the customer site. And then we use that information to find new insight. So we'll take that data and we'll actually tie that to retail or maybe inventory data, or even the ability to tie it to a marketing campaign so we could measure the effectiveness.
And so you have a site specifically dedicated to the World Cup where people can go out and find analytics about what's going on.
Yeah.
Is there particular insights that you have already been able to see through the data that you have? We're just at the beginning of the World Cup.
Yeah, I know. It's fascinating. So a lot of people think business intelligence is boring, right?
Yeah.
And so using the World Cup as an example has been great for us and my developers that have been kind of playing around with that. So we've been running this harvester for about 5-6 days, and we've already downloaded over 700,000 mentions of World Cup.
Oh my goodness.
In those 5 days, which is really fascinating.
What are the big things that are coming up as you're looking through those different sites?
Well, you know, one of the things we can do is we can actually look at the top team mentions. So what was fascinating about that is England, over 51,000 mentions within that 5 days. South Africa, over 41,000 mentions. In that 5 days. We even have the ability to group it and count on the top fans, you know, just tweeting away or mentioning quite a bit.
And this goes across Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and I guess a customer using that can customize this as well. Now, the art of BI is not just numbers by themselves, but also comparing them to other things. So you're telling me 50,000 metrics here. You know, how does that compare to something else that might be popular? How popular is this thing?
Well, a couple things here. One is, if we look at World Cup, again, going back to that 700,000 mentions in the last 5 days. So what I decided to do was take BP oil, right? There's a lot of bad stuff going on there today, and start tracking them. Only 51,000, little over 51,000 mentions of BP oil during that time. That's interesting. But what's really interesting about comparing the two numbers, World Cup is mentioned a lot more, almost 3-to-1 more on Facebook than on Twitter. But BP oil, it's the other way around. There's a lot of mentions on Twitter and very few actually on Facebook.
So that might indicate maybe sentiment around this data and so forth. And I know your technology does that. So you have something of obviously that works on the desktop, and that's what you've been working with our teams to provide that and make that available. This site is available on the web. I think it's extendedresult.com/World Cup.
Yep, you can get there.
And you also have something on the phone.
Yep. We have it on the mobile phone too. So actually you visit the website, extendedresults.com/World Cup, and you'll find kind of the how did we do all this. You know, so we have a blog link that describes how we harvested the information, stored it in our database. We built a Silverlight 4 application that is kind of the fan page for social media. And then you can also download our Push BI product for your mobile device, and you can actually track the top team mentions, social mentions on your phone in real time.
That's great. Another example I was looking at, I think this is where now it really relates to the business, is who's the most popular soccer player, for instance. So who's the number one Twitterer in the space for France, for instance. So I might know if I'm an advertiser, I might want to know if my contract with a given player is working out, if there's a person that is talking more than others. I know in the case of the player was Didier Drogba, who in fact just injured himself and he's not playing. So that's an interesting trend, is even somebody that's not playing has been talked a lot about.
Yeah,
so as you think about all this work,
how
does this relate to what you can do in the enterprise with your solution?
Well, from the enterprise perspective, talking about your top players and things like that, but when we look at targeting our media campaigns, just from the comment between World Cup and BP oil, you're targeting your communication, whether it's Twitter or to Facebook, maybe not both. You might waste money there. But it's really an opportunity to take that rich amount of information. Think about it, 700,000 transactions in 5 days. There's a deep conversation there. Now I could take that information and actually tie it, because it's in my internal database, I could tie it to a marketing campaign system or retail sales or even inventory or whatever I can really think of, even a competitive portal.
to a great example inside the enterprise, figuring out who's talking about your brand and then connecting with the right people.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, great. Thank you very much again for your time. A great solution across the web, on the desktop, and on the mobile. I hope a lot of these fans will enjoy this application. It's available to them for free, so they can go to extendedresults.com /World Cup.
World Cup.